How y'all doing today? I'm doing an interview. A lot of things that come up in my own office. Don't mind the mess. It's organized clutter. The reason why I'm doing this interview from my office is because due to my scheduling, my hectic scheduling, and my impaired health, I've been unable to make it to some formal interviews at some pretty nice little sound studios that some bloggers and other people have had. Start off, hi everyone. My name is Vincent D. Faney, aka Vinsanity. This is my stage name whenever I have the energy to go out and do some comedy or other things on stage. Right now I'm just talking to you. I'm doing this from my home because due to unseen circumstances in my health, I couldn't make it, and I just wanted to get this out for many reasons. Later on, we'll have more people interviewing me and so forth. I'm sharing a lifelong dream with all my Facebook friends, former schoolmates at Upper Merion High School and Lane Community College and the University of Oregon. Go Ducks! We're doing pretty well this year. I'm not a football fan, but you know, they're the Ducks, and it's my home, it's my town. And to my friends at the community, in the community of Eugene, Springfield, Oregon, my friends in Southern Oregon as well. And quite frankly, I've all my friends I've made around the globe in the past 15 years. I'm saying hi. I want to share this with you through Facebook and all the other social media outlets which I've gotten involved with. It's my hope that the dream I want to share with you will come to fruition within a year. So you know, that's my hope. And hopefully within this year, at least by spring or something. It'd be great if it could happen before the first of the year, and I'll tell you why in a bit. I've been working on this plan for years, okay? And in fact, it's the product of my lifelong desire since earliest childhood to become a community builder to make some positive and lasting changes in the world. Now, in the past few weeks, I've been talking about this plan for many, many years, okay? So in the past few weeks, though, you know, I've been really trying to bring things together. And a lot of people found out, they've heard about this, my commitment, they discovered my dream, they heard what I intended to do, what I intend to do. They heard of my commitment, and I've received many calls from people who want to interview me. Okay. However, as I said, as you know, especially people my age, life has various circumstances and conflicting schedules, to put the kibosh on some of these people to videotape me formally in person. So far, I've expressed the interest in collaborating with some people have expressed two men. These are two men who gave me actually a formal informal interview. They talked to me. They're two separate entities, but they've collaborated on a few items in the past, some documentaries or something, and they've expressed interest in collaborating with each other to do a video interview of me. Their names are Douglas Friedman and Bill Hackman. Okay, nice guys. At least I think so. Some of my friends are a little sketchy about Bill. I'll tell you why. They were scheduled to interview me now, but scheduled to interview me yesterday, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, they're stuck in Idaho and will be sending me interview questions. Still got an issue with my computer. I have trouble Skyping. So basically they could hear my interview, and my microphone is inadequate. It starts screeching when I try to play their audio questions live to me. Later on, I've asked them that if we do this interview and it's successful, that they bring up some more questions and do a more one-on-one so you get to see the faces of the people I'm talking about. Anyways, we're doing a messenger interview questions through Messenger, and so every time they ask a question, I'll give a response, and when they think I'm done with the response, they will give the question. It's going to be a little clumsy, but please bear with me. Before I get started, I want to warn the audience that a few of my friends went with me to this informal interview. A few of them felt that Douglas was friendly and eager to help, and they want to help me. He wants to help me to get my story out to the public. Now, the majority of my friends, these guys, felt that Bill was a bit of an asshole. That's their words, their perception, not mine, okay? But that was them. And they thought he was not friendly to my calls. They felt that Mr. Hackman was more than a little skeptical and distrustful of my intentions. Actually, it was their opinion that I should not allow myself to be interviewed by him whatsoever. They felt that the interview with him would be more harmful to my cause, and so they warned me against it. Gotta have my coffee. Anyways, I decided to ignore the advice of my friends because I think it's necessary and even healthy to have some skepticism for those people, or from these type of people around us, people who possess critical thinking skills, and to make inquiries, to make distinctive, piercing, direct, probing inquiries. I think that's very important. So I welcome a skepticism because I have the truth on my side, and I'm confident that I'll be able to substantiate everything I present. Okay, guys, I'm ready for whatever questions. You're going to type this into me, right? All right. Let's see. We'll see if we'll see if they're hooked up. We've been running into a lot of snafus. Okay, Douglas is typing something to me. My eyes are. I had eye surgery, so I can see 20/20, but I need reading glasses still, and my reading. I don't have the right reading glasses. I lost them. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. To start with, Bill and I would like you to give us a little background of your life, your accomplishments, and what you intend to do. Douglas is a nice guy. Okay, Douglas, Bill. I'll do that. I'm a former Marine. I'm the author of several books. You won't see any of these in Barnes & Nobles anytime soon, but these are books that I've written. I've copyrighted, and they're submitted to Library of Congress name and all that. Like a whole bunch of books and short stories. I'm a former competitive strength athlete, not just a power lifter, but sort of like prior to the strongman competitions, I had an interest in different physical athletic events that demonstrate speed, not just one rep strength, but many rep strength endurance, speed, strength, static strength, all that sort of stuff, power output. And I was initially competed with myself. It was a private thing that I did. And eventually, I used to compete in powerlifting contests. And of course, friends and I at the gym would have friendly competitions. Long before CrossFit, we would do CrossFit kind of stuff. What we could do for 100 reps in the squat, 200 reps in the squat, all sorts of crazy stuff. But I competed. It was just for fun. I didn't do it for money. It was for fun. I loved competing against guys who took steroids, and that was my gig. I just loved it because I never took anabolic steroids or any performance-enhancing drugs. Well, except for Viagra once. But aside from that, never took any performance-enhancing drugs. And anyways, at the time, in my late 30s, I was a serious contender for 2 world records, one in the squat and one in the bench press. And I was this close to getting 3 times my body weight in the bench press, which is without a bench shirt, without ever taking steroids, and again in my late 30s. That's a real achievement. Only a handful on the planet have done 3 times their body weight, even with steroids, quite frankly. So, and that was due to science, some scientific ideas I came out with. Anyways, enough of that. Right now, I'm embarking on a journey, on a challenge of raising funds to provide veterans, particularly disabled veterans, at least these people I want to target first, to raise money so they can enjoy affordable housing. All right, my goals include not just veterans, as I said, but other people as well. And I'll get more in depth as to why I want to target everybody, quite frankly, eventually. But people who are forced, like right now, you got people who've never been veterans, but they're forced to live on a Social Security disability or meager Social Security. Someone like your grandmother, somebody who worked for minimum wage all her life, doesn't have a ton of money, and she's got more bills than money coming in from Social Security, and she's unable to work. That's people I would like to target as well. People who are suffering a variety of disadvantages. Now, some of my ideas, quite frankly, with regards to addressing many societal problems that are plaguing all of us today, problems such, just the top ones I'll name, affordable housing, we need affordable health care, any kind of health care, higher education, having the money for higher education. In the estimation of some pundits that I've talked to over the internet, and of course we have no shortage of them here in Eugene, they think my ideas are unique, which is kind of cool. But on the other side of the coin, let me be honest, one guy, a couple people even said, perhaps visionary. Yeah, well, we'll see. But, to be honest, on the other side of the coin, there are a lot of people in the community who have told me that my ideas are harebrained. Harebrained, Some of them used worse words than that. A stupid fuck and all that. I'm sorry. I should try to keep it clean. But many of them were kind, and they said, at best misguided and naive. You know what I'm saying? Um, oh, Douglas is typing. Oh, okay. Well, yes, Douglas, I do have special plans for. He asked me, Vincent, I understand you have some special plans for veterans. Yes, I do. And like I said, Douglas, not just veterans, okay, other people as well. I just type it again. He's focusing on the veterans. Well, what are your plans for veterans, Vince? He's interested. He's a veteran, too, so he's interested in that. Bill is not a veteran. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's all he's typed. What are your plans for veterans? All right. I'm planning to raise money to pay off a few properties, which I believe would be a nice start for veterans in desperate need of affordable housing. But as you know, many veterans, maybe some of you don't know, but many veterans are constrained on fixed, meager incomes. And that's if they're retired from the military, if they retired early, if they have, usually from disability. And many veterans like myself don't get hardly anything when it comes to a annuity from the VA, anything like that. It's nothing to live on, okay? At least not your own apartment. Maybe you could rent a couch someplace, and that's pretty much it. Some people could afford, maybe they get massive, they get 100% disability. They were maybe a major in the armed forces, so they get a decent amount, but it's not enough to rent a decent place or apartment. And if they did, they can't pay the rest of their bills. So these are people I'm focused on, okay? But like I said, not just veterans. I want the bulk, other people, who, as well. And let's face it, why would I want to do that? Let's examine that. And point of fact, anybody who rents or especially has a mortgage knows that the majority of our financial output that we make, the money we make from an income, whether it's a welfare income or whether it's we work, a lot of us work, is spent on rent and mortgage, even more than car payments and other things, okay? Hopefully, people are spending not that much money on, strippers and drinking and partying. But, so quite frankly, my goal is I want that for us as individuals and families, clusters of friends and communities, to help each other, to free each other from the tyranny of sky-high rent and outrageous mortgage. Okay, that's my dream. So this would enable all of us, if we were all in this situation, have more disposable income for other important matters. Money, like I said, towards health care, good health care, towards a real education, and something that we don't have to go in debt and get financial aid over. This would go a long way towards engineering a better world, because after housing and rent, the next big cost, and aside from a car and the upkeep of a car and the insurance on property and a car, is health care. A lot of people can't afford it, but if they do, it's outrageous. And education for themselves and kids. It costs at a community college like $3,000 a term to take some basket weaving and some strength and fitness classes. So that's just outrageous. That's at a community college. Douglas is typing again. Okay, Douglas wants to know how I could plan to raise money for such an endeavor. Okay, good question. It's going to take some money. I'm not wealthy. I don't have properties right now paid off. But in addition to me, there are a group of other concerned individuals these are entrepreneurs, property owners. These are like personal trainers, musicians, poets, teachers, and other entertainers. Quite frankly, I've been talking to them over the years. And I've been more obsessed about them because they're busy. Many of them have families. So I've been trying to steer us all together to do this. So they're going to be helping me to put together products and services along with their own time and money to make this goal of ours happen. Okay, and later on you'll find out who some of these angels of mercy, or these amazing community builders here, how many, you're going to find them out personally. We're going to be interviewing them, talking to them, posting their pictures and so forth. Wonderful people. Now, all the profits and the services that are going to be created to create these funds for affordable houses is all the proceeds will be going towards paying off specific properties I have in mind. Douglas is typing. Douglas wants to know, he says, Vince, what sort of properties do you have in mind? Well, I've considered a few options, and I have a few friends that have properties that are paid off. A couple of these guys have been they're either divorced or their wives share their retirement dreams. Their kids are grown out of college. They're fending for themselves, doing quite well. Or actually, a majority of my friends that can do this and want to do this are never been married, never had kids, and they basically would like to divorce themselves from the properties and responsibilities. They have invested monies and have other incomes coming in, and quite frankly, they selfishly would like to move to someplace tropical and be scuba bums and surfing bums, and pursue their retirement dreams. Selfish bastards. I wish I could do that. Anyways, they've offered their properties for sale at quite a bit below market price. They just want to see this happen. So, I'm tempted by their offer, but however, I have my eye on a couple other properties, very large properties here in Eugene, one in Medford. Most of these have been foreclosed. Two of them aren't foreclosed, and but they're good, so I'm going to make a deal. Maybe they're distressed. They look like they need some work, and so I think I can make a good deal with the people. And the reason why I'm picking these properties is because they're multi-units, large buildings, large houses, large duplexes, triplexes. They have very large bedrooms, and I think it'd be ideal to get, a handful of veterans on very meager pensions to live in the house together, pay initially half the rent or mortgage, if they choose to do it in a mortgage fashion and be tied into the house, or half the rent that they would pay anywhere else. And that money, since the place is paid off, would go towards getting other repossessed properties and then moving people in, paying that off through the services and products we have, and then getting more veterans, and then more veterans and people or people who are interested in jumping on board with this would go to ever progressing exponential growth of putting money and paying off houses and helping each other. My dream is that within a generation or less, you would walk out of any given property or store or whatever, look around, and most of the houses would be owned outright by individuals or families and friends, and people would not be paying rent or mortgage. They'd be paying utilities, and their living costs would be down. That's my hope. Let's see. Douglas is typing in again. Bill, are you dead? I don't see you typing anything, Bill. Okay. Douglas wants to know, how will your idea of housing a handful of disabled vets work? Okay. I thought I just explained that. So, and again, I've explained it's not just disabled vets. The goal is to make affordable housing for other people on limited incomes. All right. People who are, like I said, Social Security, disability, retirement, annuities or whatever. So the ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to make this action. I'm hoping to go viral. That's my thing. Anyways, that's the dream. Bill is typing again. Not Bill, Douglas. Douglas, is Bill there? Yeah, he's not weighing in, or is he just listening like a hawk? All right. Douglas wants to know just what phenomenal vision you have. I'm not sure if there's a time lapse here or some sort of weird thing. Okay, Douglas, I got a dream that the day that most properties, like I said, in every community, any and every community, will be paid off. Meaning, not held by a bank, all right? A lot of people I know are against the banksters. They think the banks are part of this insidious, evil underground empire looking to enslave the world. And quite frankly, if that's true, all the more reason to be doing what I'm setting out to do, to get involved with this program. I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist and think that there's a shadow figure around every corner. And I have more reason than most to believe that there is. But I don't. I just know that banks are also businesses and they need to make money. All right. So most properties are held by banks. Even people who are landlords, like I used to be a landlord. And, while I was paying money to the bank, I was getting money from tenants. All right. So I see the potentiality that these properties be held again by friends, families, and communities, not just by me doing this deal, but other people getting involved. Okay? That's what I want. All right? So, yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do. I lost my train of thought here. I'm sorry. Uh, Again, the banks are. I want people to hold, to possess title to the property. You know, that way they have an option. People, individuals like myself, will have an option to provide a lease to own, right? Lease to purchase, or simply charge monthly rent. And in the monthly payments, whether it's rent or mortgage, is can be a great deal lower than what banks offer. All right, and at a fixed interest rate. So, far lower than what the banks provide now. Okay. Douglas again. It's just Douglas typing. I don't know what's happening with Bill, but Douglas kind of wants to know. He was going to ask me, I guess. What do I mean by going viral? Yeah, he was going to. Okay, Bill's kind of off the track too. Well, the truth is, if my friends and I were to be committed to our plan, it would have a huge impact. If, say, none of you out there in the world got involved with doing this, and it was just me and my friends and the people in the community, I convinced the veterans that we helped, who we get housing, to continue to be part of this infrastructure, helping us to help others, to pay it forward, and then we take more money and get another house, and then 2 houses, and then 3 houses, and each house we get people to live in who would enjoy paying far less monthly payments, far less than what they are now. So they would be benefited. They would have an interest. They should have an interest in just doing it just to cut their costs. Although I'm hoping they get more emotionally, patriotically invested beyond that, and we could have a huge impact. But our lives are short. My friends and my who are interested in this, majority of them are old like me. We're 60 or older, and it's not like we have a lot of time left. If we were doing this when we were 20. And so forth, the world would probably be a very different place. But we're 60 and older, most of us. We have health issues. We don't have the energy, the juice to do it like we would like. And so this is what's going to, it still have a huge impact. But, if we can inspire as many people out there in the world to also follow this concept, okay, to help each other, to provide affordable housing, rent-free mortgage or rent-free and mortgage-free housing for most of us within a generation, the result for this world would be phenomenal. And, again, that's what I'm hoping to do. Douglas is typing again. I think Bill is dead. Douglas, did you kill Bill? Douglas is typing. Okay, he says, Vincent, sounds interesting. The issue of providing such a deal for people on limited incomes is understandable. I'm glad it's understandable. But it sounds like you're looking to see all people having access to this plan as well. Why? Do you think there's a real benefit to this? The questions he just asked, I'm not sure if he's screwing with me or Douglas. Are you having trouble understanding this? Or is he being kind of like a journalist to hit this home? I don't know. Anyways, let's look at some facts, Douglas, and everybody out there. Let's look at some facts. Currently, the banks hold the titles to most properties, right? We all know that. The job of the bank is to make money. Like the job of any business is to make money. It's not a bad thing. There's a lot of people who think that's unethical, but it's a good thing to make money. As long as it's not done fraudulently, as long as you don't rig the game and make fair competition available, it's all right to make money. They need to make money on the properties that they're holding, okay? And just for the record, like I said, I have no problems with this. And, they have to make money for their shareholders. People invest in banks oftentimes. They have investors, shareholders. And because of this fact, though, monthly payments, by its very nature, have to be a lot higher. Maybe they don't have to be as high as they are now, but they do have to be higher than, say, if I owned a property and wanted to, sell it to anybody. I could charge any price. I could charge any sort of mortgage just as long as it's covering the cost of repairs and so forth. I could charge any interest rate. There's no, it's mine. I could do that. So that's the thing. So I could do that. So that's how I got my first property. I was looking around. I had no credit. I never owned a property before. Never got anything on. I never had a credit card, anything. So I first got my job at the post office my first year here in Eugene. And I looked around at properties, and people said you're ugly, or you just don't have any credit. And I found an elderly couple who owned a house outright, a little fixer-upper, right near campus, 10 blocks from campus. And it was like $500 down I had to give them, and they held the paper because they owned it outright. They gave me a mortgage of 10 years. They said I'd have to come up with all the money in 10 years because they were old. They wanted the return on the money. And they charged me an interest rate that was, quite frankly, just a little bit more than what the banks at the time were offering. They could have charged me less, but they were looking to make up their income. Their motivation wasn't to give everybody free housing. Their motivation was to have an investment income, get interest paid to them every month besides the principal. So I had to pay a certain principal, pay a certain interest rate, and it was so good, such a good deal. I paid the property off in 7 years, which is an amazing state to be in, to have a house that you own outright in 7 years. Anyways, that's that. I was in my early 30s, and then I just kind of went from there in the meantime before I paid it off, because the rent was the payments were so low, and I worked so much overtime I could invest in other properties. Anyways, so you all know that the amount of interest that banks charge ensures that over a course of years that the people that are making these payments will end up paying double, triple, or more to the bank. That's just the way it is. You buy a $100,000 property, you may end up spending in a lifetime $500,000. That's money that could go towards your kids' education, towards health care, towards all these other things that should be obvious. Disability insurance, and they have some good disability insurance programs. Assisted living insurance. So when you get to a certain age, that money's been going into annuity that will pay for your health care, whether you need help at home, like some of my friends do now, or need to live in an assisted living facility. So I don't know why that's what we should be doing for each other. This is no reason. If you have a family, if you have kids, if you have people you love, you would realize this makes sense, and we'd be working vigorously towards this. Simple as that. Quite frankly, it's a no-brainer, okay? So like I said, when a person owns a property outright, they could charge anything they want from $1 on up. They could charge any interest rate, okay? So ideally, people renting or leasing to purchase will only be paying, like I said, a fraction of what the bank would charge, all right? And let's say the monthly payment is diminished by 50%. So like if you were paying, let's give us some place to stand, $1,000 mortgage or rent. A lot of you say, geez, I wish I was only paying that, but let's start with $1,000. All of a sudden, you're paying $500. That $500 could go towards a lot of other necessary things. Let's say also that I was charging 1 or 2% above prime, or prime, or under prime, whatever I wanted. That's interest. That amount of money means, that low interest rate means that you will not be putting in $500,000 at the end of 30 years to a property that you will want to purchase, but it'd just be 1-2% more. All right. That's the deal that we want to offer to help facilitate a world community having property and being rent and mortgage free. I mean, you always hear a lot of occupiers and people say it's a human right to have housing. Well, I don't know if it's a right, but it's ideal if we all had housing that was paid off, so we could put our creative and energies and other monies better suited towards helping their families and building a better world. Anyways, if you own a house outright and you go to rent to somebody, or you go to sell to somebody in this manner, if they were to get sick or be out of work, you could offer them all. You have the power and the resources to let them skip rent for a couple months, to skip mortgage for a couple months, or whatever you want. And that's a good place for people to be. I know when I first got into real estate, my deal, it was a basic concept. You buy low, and then you charge more than what the payments are. You have to do that, especially if another third entity is owning the paper, because you have bills to pay, you have repairs, you have taxes, all this other stuff. So you got to go in and say, I could get this property cheaper than the market value. I see the potential to add things on and extract more income. Okay, so when you get things under market value and you make a good deal, you make a wise decision, you could afford, if you want it, not everybody does this, you could charge maximum rents if the market will bear it. But regardless if the market bears it or not, I was in a situation where I was renting to single mothers with 3 kids, and since I came from a family of a single mother with 3 of us, my heart went out. I had a good job at the post office. I didn't need to charge maximum rents. So I charged a great deal under market value. They got discounted rents because that's what I wanted to do for them. All right. So that way they could purchase more things for their kids, you know. And I did this for people who were very responsible, and that was their whole thing, was that they lived for their children, and they, you know, used that extra money for the clothes, for college fund, for this and that. And when I had a tenant that was good and always say on time with their rent, and they didn't trash the place, they kept the place clean, and they even maybe paint it and put nice curtains up or whatever. When Christmas came around, you know, there were so many times, I didn't do this with all tenants, but there were so many times I'd go to a mother with 3 kids or whatever, some single person, anybody, and I'd say, look, it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. You don't have to pay rent for this month. And by the way, do you want a turkey or a ham for your family? That's a very powerful, wonderful feeling. And I wasn't saying, here's charity. That wasn't in the spirit like, let me give you charity. That was in the spirit like, we're working together here. Okay? We're helping each other out. It's a win-win situation. I want to keep you as a tenant. I want you to go through life and have an affordable life. And I'm still, it's not like I'm becoming as rich as fast as I wanted, but I'm still making money. It wasn't like I had to, you know, become rich overnight. Now, that's the power of what you can do. Imagine if I had owned those places outright. You know, that would be great. That would be great. So that's my mission. That's what I want to do. I want to go further with that. So, anyways, I'm losing my train of thought again. I'm actually hoping for Bill or Bob or a Douglas or somebody to save me right here, because I'm kind of winding down. You know, you guys, I have health problems, so my mind kind of wanders a bit. I get fatigued easily, and that's basically. Oh, I see Bill is Bill for the first time is typing in a question. Okay, let's see. Bill saying, on the surface it all sounds good, but I can see problems that could come up for such a plan. Such as what, Bill? Oh, he's typing. Okay. A couple things come to mind is the fact that a handful of individuals with different personalities living together. How would you expect that to work, Vince? You know? Well, what he's bringing up is a good point. It is quite challenging to be living with other people. It's challenging. It's sort of like having a family. But, you know, in this day and age, you know, ideally, a lot of people think that they would like to live by themselves. They don't want to have a lot of roommates. And yet, I know people who live by themselves are lonely, and so they go out drinking and hang out all the time. But it is nice to have your own little place and not have to be bothered, not have to wash somebody else's dishes and so forth. And so, but what are, you know, in this day and age, what are the options, you know? A lot of people live with their parents. I mean, we all live with somebody for certain periods of our life. In the military, I shared a barracks with a bunch of guys. A lot of people have kids. You're born, you stay with your parents till you're out of high school, and then you leave. So maybe you stay with your parents till you're out of college. Maybe you even wait till out of college to secure that good job. All right. So that's what happens. I know in the 90s and when I was growing up and investing in real estate, a lot of my friends back in Philadelphia area were boomerang kids. They were in college, going at a later age, back to college, living at home with their mom and dad. They were having a lot of issues. And so, you know, they were unhappy with their life. They weren't making any money, or they had a crappy job. And so that's the way it was. And their parents really didn't like it, because the parents are still young and felt encumbered, and the parents could still get around and do things. And a lot of parents want to, like, after the kids are raised, they want to go around the world and do things that they couldn't do while they're raising their kids for 20 years or so. So it was inconvenient for them. Now, however, a lot of these guys, when they reach their 30s, 40s, or 50s, rather, the 40s and 50s, a lot of them end up having their parents trying to move in with them, or they're asked their parents to move in with them because their parents become old and infirmed and unable to do their day-to-day task. So they're moving in with their children, if they're lucky, because there's a lot of parents and children who, for whatever reason, don't have that kind of relationship. All right. So that's just the way that is. Very few people are set up financially to afford assisted living for themselves or their parents. Okay. So what I'm describing is an ever-increasing phenomena. And to add to this burden, practically everybody who's experienced this phenomena is indeed right now paying exorbitant monthly rent or mortgage. They're doing this anyway. They're paying rent and mortgage anyway. My thing is, well, can we help secure each other housing to where everybody can pay less, so they can put in that extra money towards their family, to their kids. Wouldn't it be better, really? So I could even, like I said, we could structure even lower than 50%. I just wanted to get a big chunk, 50%, just so you guys get an idea. Again, money could go to all sorts of things. Nowadays, people are living so close on the wire that they don't have the money to buy good, wholesome food to keep them healthy. They're buying this processed crap with genetically modified, engineered. I'm not against outright all genetically modified foods, but a lot of foods is processed. It's not nutritious. It's engineered to make you fat. Maybe it's not purposely engineered, although some conspiracy theorists say yes. The fact is it does, though, and it's very low in nutrition. We're developing a lot of disease, diabetes, and so forth. So, again, you know, I don't want to over belabor the point, but this is money better spent on our children's education, our education. You know, right now people are going into debt, crushing debt, lifelong crushing debt by taking financial aid because it's the only way they can afford to survive and go to school. It's terrible. This is money we could say that could be better shuttled towards health insurance and everything else. And the health insurance we could purchase for ourselves would be better than government-run health care. And if you don't believe me, if you're a veteran and have to deal with the VA, you'll know. Now, I'm glad we have the VA. I've had to use the VA, with the services, but you take 6 months to get an appointment, and really, you can't believe the loopholes just to get something minor done that a doctor in the private sector would take care of immediately. Anyways, I think it's a strategy that we should all employ. Basically, you know, you get people with this strategy who still are misanthropic. They want to live alone. It would help them to purchase a little place for themselves where they could live alone, or later rent out rooms or family, or allow people, family and friends to live with them. Douglas is typing again. Let me see. Considering how the cost of property is off the charts and the number of homeless people plaguing our nation, the solution you described seems to be just what the doctor ordered. Any exclamation point. Thank you, Douglas. Well, yeah, I think it is. It's insane how people are hurting these days. And because of this, it's more imperative than ever that both individuals, this is what I'm emphasizing, not just like a relief fund and resource for people to have a place that they could live and still be cocooned themselves. What I'm doing, I would like to see individuals and collective communities coordinate to help each other with all our problems. We need to be invested in each other. We're sharing the same spaceship, planet Earth. Like it or not, you know, we're going to go down together, or we'll rebuild and engineer a better world together. And it's my firm belief that in addition to what we've been talking about, there's a lot we can do to revamp our educational system. We need to do that. There's a lot we need to do, can do. Our healthcare system, even our tax system. We can make it simpler, more streamlined. I'd like to see our archaic property tax system changed. And it's heinous how that operates. You know, you buy a house for a certain price, you factor in what you can afford, and then as you grow older, the mortgages stay the same, but other fees attached go up, utilities go up, other cost of living goes up, insurance goes up, property taxes start skyrocketing, regardless of the value of the market for your house, and that's predatory. That's wrong. And there's, you know, a lot of people believe me about all this stuff that I've talked with. I'm in good company. A lot of people far brighter than me has given this much thought. So these ideas aren't original. I've streamlined and modified and polished a lot of these ideas I'll be sharing with you from other people. Now, the truth is, as a society, as a species, we do not lack these sound strategies or adequate funding. People say we don't have the money to make these changes. We don't lack the funding, or we don't lack enough people to solve all our social political agendas. So far, from what I've seen, quite frankly, the heartbreak is we simply lack the will as a group, collectively, to employ these sound strategies. I see Bill is weighing in again. Bill, let's read your questions. Bill is saying, I guess a few questions that comes to mind is, why do you care? Why not just let the government fund affordable housing for everyone on a limited income? Isn't that their job? Bill, Okay, well, I care because I know what it's like to be homeless, Bill. You know, from talking to you, you've been lucky. You haven't been homeless, neither you or Douglas. And you know, yes, you may have know some homeless people. You know, you see them around all the time. I got to tell you, it's a very different scenario when you've been homeless yourself, wondering, you know, if you're going to get thrown in jail for being homeless, wondering if you'll be able to take away that gnawing in your stomach and not having food, scrambling when your whole desire, when you know you could be out there creating and building a better world or becoming a better person, but you're squandering your time just looking for a scrap to eat, looking for a place to sleep. I know what that's like. I know it's like to be living without hope, you know, or not seeing my hopes come to fruition. So I like I said, I know what it's like to almost starve and freeze to death. I had a homeless storm, one really brutal fall and winter when I lived in Philadelphia area. Um, I was hiding from the authorities, people who would have put me in jail for merely being unemployed and homeless. Because back then, people who were homeless and unemployed were considered mentally ill degenerates, deviants, people of no value. And, you know, I care, Bill, because of the heartache that a lot of people who are down and out, I know all that, how that feels. I know that what it's like to experience being neglected by those that you are raised to believe that you can rely on. You know, when we're growing up, we're told we can rely on our family. They're there. We're here for each other. Friends are here for each other. Friends for life. BFF. You know. Um, well, you know, I know what it's like to be neglected by friends, even if it's not intentional. They're just wringing their hands. They just don't think of the simple things that can be done. I know what it's like to be neglected by relatives and neighbors. You know, it's very dismaying. I know the despair of witnessing my friends and family and seeing other people that have been in my situation, better or worse, but still bad, and their family and friends wringing their hands. I hear their friends talking about them, and while they're sitting in a coffee shop, their coffee latte and eating their cheesecake, wringing their hands about their friends who or the aunt who can't pay her heating bill, you know, and they're talking about the extra upholstery and perks that they're buying for the BMW, but wondering what the government is doing to help their aunt and why the evil um, utility companies aren't doing something. And I'm always thinking, why aren't they doing something for their, you know, and they're clucking their tongues and wringing their hands, lamenting the fact that the government should be doing something. And I'm thinking, I'm frustrated hearing this. Because as I hear their despair, you know, as it's counterbalanced with all the nice toys they're buying and their overly priced boats and their houses and so forth, I hear they're, you know, it's just frustrating because I'm thinking, why aren't they? It's simple that they could help their aunt who is freezing to death. You know, they refusing to employ simple strategies to help each other. That's very frustrating to me. And to your question, Bill, about government intervention, I know to this day and age, it's become very popular to dream of a nanny state, to take care of every need from cradle to grave. And on the other side of the coin, I got to say, there's such people such as me that really loathe government intervention. Ah, I get a typing response from Douglas. Vincent, why such loathing? Well, oh, he's still typing. Don't you believe that the government's job is to provide for its citizens? Let me just say this. I've learned that there are two types of people in the world. People whose main drive is to be self-reliant. It's in their core. It's in their gut. They want to be self-reliant. They're, you know, I guess they got that pioneering, entrepreneuring spirit. That's what differs them from the rank and file of most of humanity, I think. They're uncomfortable with the thought of having to depend on government for handouts, okay? And generally, these type of people are goal-oriented. From what I've seen in my 60 years on the planet, they're goal-oriented with a deep purpose for life, all right? Very energetic people. They prefer to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and they take the responsibility of protecting their own circle of family and friends very seriously. They remind me, my Uncle Vince was this way, and some people I know that are this way. They're sort of like the character who I admired, some aspects of this cat character, because he was a criminal after all, but of course they romanticized him. But romanticized or not, Don Corleone in The Godfather was that way. Very protective. For him, it was personal. It wasn't just business. It was his family, taking care of his family and friends was his. It felt like it was his birthright. It was his destiny. It was his desire to make sure his family and friends were protected because they were in his circle of influence. And that's what these people that I know are like. That's what I feel like that I have always admired. Now, the other type of people, Bill, are people who are they're the opposite from the first group. The very thought of even possibly having to be self-reliant absolutely terrifies them. Their spinker just puckers right up or just lets loose. They're just terrified, okay? And they pray constantly. I used to work with people like this. They constantly praying and wringing their hands, wanting help, whether by the government or some sort of charity organization, churches. They're praying to God. They've hit up all these people sometimes, and they consistently expect the rich and powerful to take risk. They expect other people to take the risk that they fear to take or too lazy to take. They expect the rich and the powerful to show love and compassion for those who have less. Even the very people who are unwilling to strive. You know, you give them a chance, you show them a game plan, you may even give them offer some seed money, some rent-free, whatever place so they can get started, and they will refuse to even strive, and yet focus on the military-industrial complex or the alien agenda or sacred geometry or other such crap. Now, I got to tell you, I fancy myself to be in the first group, quite frankly. That's who I am. That's how I roll. Now, Bill, aside from the reality of government intervention and why it's loathsome for many reasons. Government, quite frankly, is wasteful. I know this from personal experience. I worked for the post office. I've worked around other municipalities. I have friends, close friends and family, people I chat with all the time that work for many federal and state agencies. They work for local and other municipalities I know about, the municipal agencies. And they basically, each of them, every one of them, to the man and woman, has a long list of seemingly never-ending horrific stories of waste and corruption. All right? Even under the best intentions, even if people were perfect, even if people couldn't be corrupted, and we were rational 100% of the time, had an intellect like Mr. Spock, and never made mistakes, and our intentions were good and honorable. Simply dealing with middleman demands a huge chunk of money, right? And that's a huge chunk of money better utilized directly for purposes intended that the agency set up. The agency set up for this certain purpose to help people. But they have so many middlemen that all that money is diluted. It goes in there. It just goes off like into the ether. And so there's less usable money that if I was to provide that service, I could just simply take all that chunk of money and utilize it. And that's just the nature of government agencies, you know, lots of waste. All right? And like I said, the government's overloaded with middlemen. Corporations and businesses have middlemen too when they get a little bit big, and that's to be expected. And a lot of that can't, you know, as an entrepreneur, when I was an entrepreneur, I tried to sharpen my pencil, minimize middleman cost or middlemen if I could. So anyways, there's lots of ways. Besides, you know, quite frankly, Bill, I prefer that people that all of us take a personal investment, a personal interest to invest our hearts, our energies toward providing and protecting our family and friends. Does that make sense? I really loathe people who are not willing to stand up for their family and friends and they want to just pawn off the responsibilities and protection and concern to some blind third-party entity, some bureaucracy. I can't express to you the hatred and loathing I have for such a mentality. Relying on government to provide for us actually gets in the way of the important element of we the people to be directly involved. Douglas is typing again. All right, Douglas is saying, look, you don't want government to help, and it sounds like you're not much for charity. But isn't what you're really striving for charity? No, it's not charity. A lot of people have said that. It's not charity. Charity is typically when you give something with no expectations of return. It's become very fashionable to say, oh, if you go to help other people, you should never, ever, ever expect anything in return. In fact, that's the big thing against the rich. they're saying you don't need that much money. You should use all that money. You should live in a little tiny modest place. And we should, if we're going to try to force socialism on you, force you to live with less, despite the amount of years and hard work you put in, and you should just give to other people and expect nothing in return. Even when you're, give to the people who are not interested in even pulling themselves up whatsoever. That's not very. You need to do this to help people. That's what people think. That's charity. All right. Nothing in return. That's what's value. You should not expect anything in return. Simply give with no thought or goal or strategy or outcome. My friends and I are not involved in that such form of charity. I've even had people say, look at what you're doing. Why don't you get involved? You're selling these products. Sounds like a business. You're selling these products, or you want to sell products and so forth and services and make money and turn it over to, purchase properties, turn it over. Sounds a little bit like a business. We don't trust businesses. You should enter and get into a non-profit, develop a non-profit organization. Well, there's a couple reasons why I don't want to do that. Because non-profit, if you look at the people who run non-profit organizations, and the bigger the non-profit, the more money they make. They're able to engineer, because they're in collusion with the government, to show that they're not making over a certain amount of profit. You got guys who run the, I think it's the transplant or organ donation organization with the United States. He's making a couple $100,000 a year. But he's not making a profit. The organization is not making a profit. But they get a lot of money coming in. Okay? I've examined so many nonprofit organizations where you got business people say, well, I know how to run a business because I run a nonprofit. Well, no. Without the government, you wouldn't be doing anything. You wouldn't be surviving. You couldn't even staple 2 sheets of paper together. And what you've done is you're smart enough or working with the government to not be taxed, to be tax exempt, and still get a healthy income. And the fact of the matter is, you're making this income, and you're really running a corporation that's labeled nonprofit, and people talk about corporations, and they're out there who basically get away with paying their fair share of taxes, and they're outraged by that. But nobody thinks about the money that corporate nonprofits should be paying in taxes, or how churches or some other organizations should be paying in tax. That's money not going to the people who need money in the proper way, because a nonprofit is often, and I've seen them, nonprofits are often wasteful organizations. They're wasteful as any government agency, many of them, not all of them, but many of them. And when they're not paying their fair share in taxes, or when big corporations don't pay their fair share in taxes, that's coming out of your pocket. That's the strain that you may or may not see directly, but you're being put under financial duress. So I actually don't want to be a nonprofit. I want to basically give my profit away, because that's my choice, not by force. I don't want to be forced into anything. So that's how I roll, and I think some people can understand that. So now Bill is typing. Vincent, do you believe that it's wrong to do something for no expectations for anything in return? Really? Do you think it's wrong? Yeah, Bill, yes, I do. And I know, again, it sounds heartless to a lot of people, and that's the first thing that comes to a lot of people's mind. But the thing is, I think it's irresponsible and stupid. In fact, I remember I had a property that I had paid off, and I had somebody living in the property, and she was disabled. And this is before I actually had the property paid off. I had to pay, I'm still paying a mortgage on it. And the fact of the matter is that because she was disabled, I charged her like 1/3 of the market, what I could have got market rent, because she was disabled. I thought, and she was making money. I mean, he was doing stuff to make money and so forth. And the fact is, I was working at the post office, but I got myself into a bind. That was where I learned a mistake. That was one of my first properties. I learned that when you go to help people, you can't cut yourself too close to the line, because if you're just like, if your property, you're operating like an alligator where you're spending money, you're losing money every month just because you want to help somebody, then the place starts falling apart and you have no money to repair it. And it just falls apart and becomes a hazard. And that's what I fell into. So I eventually had to empty that property out, and she had to scramble to look for a place because the place became unsafe to live. And it was, when you have a person who's disabled, you can't revamp and remodel a whole place while they're living there. So that was my stupid mistake, not her fault. And it was a very horrible experience to have to say, look, the place is falling apart. I can't work in there while you're living there. And I don't have the money. I'm not rich. I can't have no place for you to live or a hotel. Turns out she came from a wealthy family. And I didn't know that. I didn't know she had a trust fund. So she actually had a lot of money coming in. Of course, it's terrible that she had a disability. But luckily, that helped relieve my apprehension about, telling her to find another place. I gave her, plenty of time, like 3 months to find a place. And then I had to go in and redo it. But I put myself behind the 8 ball. So it is irresponsible and stupid, even immoral, I think, and evil in the what happens. To not even consider what you should be getting back in return. There should always be a good return. It has to be equitable for everybody, and it has to be done in such a way to help each other save face. Bill, we all have expectations. Let's be frank. Let's be adult about this. We have expectations, or we should have. We get into a relationship, a marriage, a friendship, or a job relationship. We should have mutually delineated, clearly outlined, delineate expectations of each other, and we should either figure if it's really what we want to do, if it has integrity, and we should honor those. And when we can no longer honor those expectations, then we need to get out of the relationship. That's how it is. Now, sometimes our expectations doesn't always have to be money. Like if I give you a free consultation for fitness, maybe I don't want money. Maybe I want to trade, barter. Maybe I want you to do something for somebody else. Me helping you could help. Me helping you for one thing could help you to help someone else. That sort of thing. So basically, I believe that people, other times expectations should be to help others. Like I said, like in the movie Pay It Forward. I really love that movie. Very tear-jerking, inspiring movie. I learned you got to be very careful though with the people you help, because I got in some bad situations. I found out how disrespectful, and it shouldn't be surprising because I feel this way. I've tried to give charity and say, no, you don't need to give anything in return. And no, let me help you with this. And no, let me do this. And no, you don't need to pay, or you don't need the help. Basically, I became their nanny and their enabler. Now, the people who are natural exploiters took advantage of this. And the people that were like bootstrapped, pulled themselves up, were insulted. They felt unmanned. They felt it was just terrible for them. They got angry. Their pride was hurt. They wanted to do something, and I was forbidding them with my misguided thought that I was helping them. And I went overboard because I wasn't going to expect anything in return. So, when you're dealing with people, you basically, again, you're dealing with two types of people when it comes to charity. Some people have no issue with accepting any or all charity, anything that comes down the pike, they're out there ready to suck it up. And the fact is that they even feel self-entitled. They have all sorts of rationalizations and excuses as to why they need to be, taken care of. And especially if the money comes from a government agency, because when it comes from a government agency, they're not inclined to feel concerned where the money's actually coming out of a general fund that you and I and other people who could use that money better for other things is forced to put into a general fund. And it's our hard-earned money, and these people don't give a shit, these type of people. So they feel no sense of obligation, no desire to give back to their community whatsoever. And in fact, if you were to ask them to volunteer their time to help others, people suffering from the very same thing that they sought help in getting, the very suffering from the same plight, invariably you get all sorts of excuses why they can't. And then when you show that they actually can, they do have the time, they do have the resources, many of them don't, they won't. Many of them don't bother with such preambles, and they simply refuse. That's how selfish and sociopathic and narcissistic they are. Now, the other types of people who accept charity, Bill, these are people who are not comfortable about accepting, and yet, if forced to by circumstance, they will invariably ask what they could do in return to help. And so, giving, I gotta watch my time here, I'll get running out of steam, quite frankly, but I just want to say, Bill, giving to people and refusing their help to help others, or refusing anything in return like I've done, misguided and done in the past, is disrespectful to people that you may be trying to help. So keep that in mind. Whenever you give your gift to others, you got to ask yourself how they are being nourished. Are you helping them to save face? Are you helping them to be more self-reliant? Okay? How can we give to non-exploiters without making them feel diminished? That's the big thing. The only way to allow them to pay what you have, the only way to allow them is to allow them to pay forward and help other people. And exploiters, I have no interest in helping exploiters. None. Zero. Zip. So to answer your question, I do have expectations in return for effort. I want people we help to help others to attain and enjoy the same perks that we give them. So just imagine a world we all work together to achieve affordable housing and healthcare, education. People who invest in each other are like Navy SEALs. They are unstoppable. Unstoppable. Now Bill's typing fast and furious. Okay, Vince, you made your point. But if you are not expecting help from the government and you're not looking for charity, how do you plan to achieve? How do you propose to achieve your plan? Like I said, my friends and I will be selling a wide array of products and services, almost all of which will be utilized for funding, paying off the housing that we repossessed by the banks. He's typing some more. When you say almost all the proceeds will be utilized for funding, what do you mean? Why not all the proceeds? Well, obviously, Bill, you not only has Bill not been in the service, I don't want to put you down, Bill, but you haven't been in business. You know, you owned a business. I mean, what you're doing is you interview, and it's different. You got to reinvest the money that you make. So much money goes into creating the services and products. You got to reinvest that money. Maybe sometimes if some demand becomes higher, you have to reinvest even more money, and then that's how it works. I could give you a whole interview on business later if you want. Douglas is typing something right now. May I ask for an example of just a few of the services and products that you and your friends will be selling? Sure. We'll be selling DVDs of comedy, music, poetry, books. I got a lot of my books on DVD or on CD. I'll be selling them on Amazon. I got I'll be giving consultations for fitness and meal plans. Mainly meal plans will be I'll slot those over to a person who's really qualified with meal plans. But I offer consultations for personal over the phone, internet, for fitness, for weightlifting, strength, and so forth. Especially those who are interested in drug-free lifting. I do personal training. We'll be selling. I got training DVDs. A lot of my friends will be giving personal training to people, and a certain percentage of the customers or the clients, they're going to take that money and be part of this. There'll be T-shirts and other sundries. And also, we'll be employing a lot of different methods and ways that will allow people who are homeless or have no income whatsoever right now, maybe minimal income or actually any level of income, to make extra money or make money by helping us to sell these products and services. Bill's coming up with something. All right. Okay, let's see. All this sounds good, but what happens if you and your friends are unable to raise the money for the houses? How committed are you to this project? What would you do with the money if you fell short of your goal to pay off a repo? Would you simply pocket the money? I'm running out. I've been at this for about an hour. YouTube doesn't allow much time. I'm going to have another segment. Let's do another segment to answer this question because it's a very good question. I understand your distrust. A lot of people are distrustful. It's a very good. This is something I need to answer, but I can't do it in a short amount of time. So, Bill, Douglas, let's do an interview segment that will be attached to this. I'm feeling run down right now. The way my health is, I need to lay down for probably a couple hours, and I like to do this when I wake up and after a bite to eat, and I feel a little refreshed. Is that okay? They both typed in, yeah, it's okay. Anyways, to my friends that I've known for a lifetime, I haven't seen for a while back in Upper Merion, my other Facebook friends and so forth, I'm glad to be finally getting this out to you. I will consistently be allowing myself to be interviewed by other people who are have their own blog sites and stuff, so we could pin it down. You guys, all of you are able to. I'll post this on Facebook too, and you guys can ask me any questions, anything pressing or piercing or probing, whatever question you want. I need to lay down right now, and I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye. Oh, jeez, man.